Well, good afternoon and welcome to Referees Corner here on IronStats.com. I'm your host, Earl Bass, and joining me is none other than the legendary Brian Hall. Mr. Hall, thank you very, very much for taking out this time to join me. We want to reflect back on your time as CONCACAF's head of refereeing, the director of refereeing, and just get your take on how things materialize throughout your career in that position and the other positions you've held within CONCACAF, because I think it's interesting to know where we came from to where we are today and how we progressed. So it was announced earlier this year that you would be moving on to bigger and better things. How has that transition been for you?
Well, having been involved with CONCACAF since 1993, because as you remember, you may not remember, but I was a FIFA refereeing in CONCACAF competitions for 15 years, starting in 1993. So having been a referee, then an instructor / assessor, and then having moved on from those to becoming the first head of refereeing and then director of refereeing for CONCACAF, my passion and my love is really for this region, the referees in this region, and hoping every single day that and working hard every single day to ensure that they are the best in FIFA, right? And and one of the things that you made mention of is what strides have we made, and I want to say, Earl, that thanks to the hard work of the member associations in CONCACAF, like Princeton and the Bermuda Football Association, and the 40 other member associations we have done more than an excellent job in creating a core of referees who can referee at any level within FIFA. In fact, I think one of the just before I left, one of the best I would say compliments I received was from FIFA, and they said, Brian, we are so happy with the refereeing in CONCACAF. We believe now that any of your top referees can referee any game, any team in the world, and we can go to sleep the night before the game, right? With the confidence that those individuals are going to manage that game at an elite level. And I think if you go back 10 years, 8 years, when I first started in this role, we weren't able to say that, and a lot of it goes down to the hard work that, for example, Princeton and is making in Bermuda, with the addition of FIFA officials, right, on the list, the constant work to train them, to bring in the top people within CONCACAF to ensure that these individuals get the best knowledge, not just knowledge, but the best knowledge available to them, because that is one of the key factors for success, is actually the knowledge and the ability then to apply that knowledge. So I'm really happy with what we've done, what we can be.
Great. But let me ask you, when you first started out and you wanted to change the model, change how to strive to get to where we are today, how much of a challenge was it from both referees and on the CONCACAF side? Because obviously you had a vision to help improve, but not everybody's going to be on board right away.
Yeah. Well, that's actually a great question. Number one, you need the support of the member associations, right? The support of the member associations, like the Bermuda Football Association, to invest in their refereeing. And that's a hard sell in many countries, right? Because the level of football is not as high as in other places, number one, and they would rather take the money and invest the money back into the players, back into their leagues, and so on and so forth. So to constantly drive home with the member associations and to get the people in head of refereeing positions like Princeton and general secretaries and presidents like you have David Sabir and such in Bermuda is really key to success. So that's number one. We had to spend a lot of time driving home and getting the member associations to support referees and referee programs in their countries. And then number two, we had to really change the mentality of the referee in CONCACAF. When I first started as a referee, to help a player off the ground, to show empathy and sympathy for a player was not common practice, right? It was basically blow the whistle, show a card, whether it be red or yellow, and get on with the game, right? And what we really have worked on and had worked, I think, successfully worked on in the past was to engulf personality, right? Um, Command presence of the referee on the field of play so that he or she opens a line of communication with the players and can manage the game with personality, with some sympathy, with some empathy, and not use that to manage so that we don't get to the pulling out those dreaded red and yellow, pieces of plastic.
Definitely, definitely. And how have you seen that change? And did it happen kind of the way you kind of sat and talked about?
Well, I think it took some time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you have to have a changing of the guard sometimes as well, right?
Yes.
You have people that and referees, and it's true in any job. Let's face it, right? That
Yes.
are so used to doing things a certain way that you have to then or transition a new team in to the role so that they are able to fully understand what the message is, and from day one have been utilizing that message in managing the game. So in the last Gold Cup, Earl, we had the average age of the referees managing the Gold Cup was 34 years of age.
Wow.
That's amazingly low, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, amazingly low. This means that if we have a Gold Cup every 2 years, and more or less, if you say the retirement age is around 45, these officials have 5 or 6 more Gold Cups left in them
Mm-hmm.
until they turn in their badge, or until someone can step in and take their place. And that's an amazing statistic. And I think it really exemplifies and amplifies the work that the CONCACAF team, the referee team, has done to educate and develop a new mentality in the referees.
Sure. Well, let's talk a little bit about, because you do have that referee background. Let's talk a little bit about when you officiated. You became a FIFA referee in 1992, and you retired in 2007. But when you started, probably not, but I'm going to ask anyway. Did you have visions of when you finished helping to improve what you were dealt with as a ref?
You know what? It's really interesting, because one of the success factors for a referee is you have to have a vision and a plan. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to tell you, from every step of my refereeing career, from being just a youth referee, and I in the United States, I was the youngest professional referee at 19 years
Mm-hmm.
old, running at the time they called linesmen in the North American Soccer League, if you remember that league, right? I started in that league at 19 years old, the youngest one ever. And I then worked the Olympics as a referee liaison in Northern California, where I am originally from. And I worked with all the FIFA referees working the 1984 Olympics. And when I saw that, I said to myself, I'm going to be a FIFA referee. And I'm going to be the youngest FIFA referee ever in the United States. So by the time I became 30, I met that goal. And then in 1994, I was the referee liaison again for the World Cup, even though it was a FIFA referee in the United States. Mm-hmm. And I got to work with all the referees that came to Northern California. And I saw the beauty of the World Cup, this beautiful game I got to experience firsthand. And I said to myself, I'm going to be a World Cup referee. So I put the plan in place to ensure that I could be a World Cup referee. And thanks to people more important than me, I made it. And then at one point in time, when I was starting to retire, I said, I want to be able to give back to the referees, the referee family that has given me so much. And part of that evolution was working at U.S. Soccer for a little bit, and then going to CONCACAF and saying to CONCACAF, hey, you need to have a head of refereeing. Let's establish this. And then I became the first head of refereeing for CONCACAF. And so although maybe initially when I first started, that wasn't part of my vision,
Right.
but then the more and more I became involved in the game, and the more and more important I said to myself, hey, I have to create my journey. I have to create my road. We didn't have GPS systems and everything like that take you from point A to B, like all the kids have today, right?
Right.
No,
Right.
you had to get out the map, and you had to draw, your get out your highlighter pen and draw your road. And that's what I did. And I'm really proud of the work that we have done to support the referees in the region, and not just the region, but I think, in the World Cup. Earl, the last World Cup in Russia, we had 4 referees in CONCACAF blow the whistle.
Wow.
In the prior to that, it has only been 3. So again, I think that shows us another step that we had made, to show FIFA and the rest of the world that the referees in CONCACAF are as good, if not better, than any referee from any country.
Now, the Gold Cup and the Nations Cup, does that offer another opportunity for our officials in the region to be on show yet again for even more FIFA opportunities?
Yeah. I mean, that's a super, super question, because, one of the things I think everyone can be proud of CONCACAF for is the fact that they have created more competitions for all levels, especially now with the new introduction of the women's ecosystem, right? Where there's more games, in particular for female players, teams, and that means referees, that this is really an opportunity for, as you said, number one, to showcase your ability and talent, right? And number two, to find out about what it feels like to travel to a game, to be a part of this very important spectacle. And once that gets into your blood, once you line up with the 2 teams, with your first national anthem playing in the background, you're looking up into the sky, you see the birds flying, the flags flying in the wind, then you say to yourself, my God, I've made it. This is something that the goosebumps, you can't trade those goosebumps for something. And you say to yourself, I want those goosebumps again.
Now, let's talk a little bit about that boardroom transition, because on the field we saw how the game of officiating changed, because when you would have started, they would have described it as diagonal run for the referee, make sure you can see both officials and so forth. But now that's kind of changed. Now they want you as close as possible to the ball, especially the on-field referee. They want you as close as possible to the ball. That transition, how long did you think that took for especially this region to adjust to?
Well, to be honest with you, I think in this region it was slightly easier than maybe some other regions. Okay, because CONCACAF, the game is more dynamic. The players are here, and I say this in a positive way, but are a little more crazy than than if you go to Europe, right? I mean, for example, if you watch the Premier League on television, the games in the Premier League, and look at games from Mexico, Honduras, United States, Costa Rica, the big, wow, over there, the players make millions and millions of dollars, and they have a lot of respect for each other. You come to CONCACAF, there's a huge gap between, right, the pay of one player and another. So what is the result? The result is less respect, right, and more difficult for the referees. So the referees have always had to have that ability to be close to play, right, to manage the game, to have that command presence that I mentioned before. I always say to our referees, you can never run as fast as the ball,
right?
But you can always have this aura that the players think you're always breathing down the back of their neck, even though you might be 50 yards away, because that was a long ball and you weren't able to catch up. But how do you get that? By using your personality, right? And by managing and creating that interaction with the players. So it was a little bit easier in CONCACAF, but I will tell you, one of the things that we worked on every single, I have to remember to speak in past tense now, in every single competition and course is positioning and movement, right? Taking clips first in the classroom, taking clips from games, actual games, men's games, women's games, and showing positive positioning, areas for improvement, having the referees do some self-analysis while they watch that as team, and then taking that to the field of play and what we call practice that every morning for a couple hours. We go to the pitch and we practice. We have practical training on the field of play. So we take that kind of training and we enact it on the field of play with and without players. So there's a process behind, again, changing the mindset to ensure that our referees, when they walk on the field of play, it's second nature to them. Because Earl, a player in any sport has 1,000 times they can practice shooting on goal or heading the ball or kicking the ball with the outside of the foot or the inside of the foot, right? Back heels. They have 100, every practice they can practice this. But what do referees really have? What is their practice time? In many cases, practice is, right, reality is the real game. And this is why training on the field of play, doing practical training on the field of play as part of the regimen for educating and developing referees is critical.
How difficult was it for you for that transition of being someone who is very, very active to going to an administrator? Because now it's a different type of officiating of sorts. Now you become sort of a teacher as opposed to a person that's refereeing the game.
Yeah. Well, I want to say at first it was a little difficult. You would go to games and you're supposed to be there as an assessor or instructor or administrator. And, you're playing the game and how you would be refereeing it in your own head. Yes. Oh, I would have done this, or I could have done this, or I would have done this, or, and you recall that this is a different referee with a different personality. And really what is important, the end result, a positive and fair end result is really what matters. So, I had to really retrain my thought process, and also the way you coach and the way you mentor is not, well, I did it this way, I did it that way, is how do you take the core of that match official and help them utilize that skill set to make them successful on the field of play, make them the best that they can be on the field of play with the tools that they have, right? And we always talk, Earl, about a referee is someone that has a tool chest.
Yes.
And as part of our jobs as instructors is to, to take the layman carpenter who might just start with a hammer and a saw and give them a screwdriver, an electric saw, you know, this tool, additional things
Mm-hmm.
that is really going to make them successful, where they can apply their trade at higher levels and in more technical type situations. So that's really what our job is, you know, and you have to learn to change your mindset to, you know, really, how do I give Earl, my referee, more tools for him to be successful?
Mm. Now, one of the things I've often been concerned about is the evaluation of a referee. As you would know, as a referee, your level with play, you have obstacles in your way sometimes trying to, you know, officiate the game, where someone who's assessing or you know, making points about the game has a higher view and can see a little more than what you. How do you administer that as in your position when you were the in charge, to ensure that the message you're giving the referee is one of encouragement or backing up, although his position is a little more difficult than it is of the assessor, because the assessor gets to see a lot more from a higher distance.
Well, first off, one of the big challenges in assessing is finding assessors that have had high level experience, right?
Mm,
You know,
mm,
and this is and that have come through the training
mhm.
with that mentality that we spoke about earlier, right? That
Right.
that you want in the referees, so that they can help coach the referees toward that goal. Now,
Mhm.
so that's number one challenge, right? Finding the people that have the ability to do that. And also, as you know, just because you may be a great referee or a great player doesn't make you a great assessor or a great coach or a great instructor, right?
Mhm.
So this is the challenge, to find the right people. But one of the things that we believe, or I have always believed in, is honesty. Number one, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And and that referees also have to be open to receive the feedback, whether it be positive or constructive,
Mhm.
and to then take that and do some self-analysis. But even more important than that is, before the assessor talks to the ref, have they done the self-analysis of the game in their mind? Have they reviewed, why did I make that call? Why did I give that yellow card? Why did I give that red card or not give it? So that's critical as well. And then the other thing that we have done, which, you know, many people don't know, is that in the past, assessments were always a secret.
Mm.
Only administrators within CONCACAF or within FIFA or within other confederations, only the administrators saw the written feedback and the score.
Right.
So 3 years ago in CONCACAF, we decided we were going to move to an era of transparency. And what does that mean? That means that we went to an online system of assessment, and that at present, every referee and every referee administrator in the country, the head of refereeing in that referee's country, can see the written feedback for that official from the assessor
Mm.
and their score, so they know right away, within 3 or 4 days after the game, did the written feedback match the verbal feedback that the assessor gave me after the game? And I
Mm.
think that was a changing factor for us in ensuring better assessments, right? More detailed assessments, and more assessments that were more toward the development of an official, and not there to kill them, right? Because
Right.
in the past, Earl, I have to say that one of the things I know when I was a referee, that you know, if you spoke a certain language or you were from a certain country, you received extra benefits, right?
Yes.
From you know, from the language you spoke or the country that you came from. Or
Right.
even if I was, you know, take a World Cup referee came and did a game, and a new referee came in, if they had the same performance, the World Cup referee, because they have that history behind them, would
Yes.
get a totally different feedback. And I don't believe in that, right? I
Yeah.
believe everyone, you're assessed for what the requirements of the game are, not the history and your background.
Mm. One of the things you wanted to do, and you spoke just a little bit about it just now, it was to improve the amount of women that were involved,
Yeah.
especially in the officiating side. getting that over the line somewhat, because now we see a whole host of female, even making the World Cup. So convincing the 41 nations of CONCACAF to push to get women involved.
Mhm.
How did that conversation go over, and was it timely for you?
Well, as with anything, it took some time, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
let let's let's be honest. Refereeing in general was a male dominated, or has been, and probably into some respect is still a male dominated position,
Mm-hmm.
right? And even the administration of that within certain places is as well. However, the first thing that we decided to say in CONCACAF is we don't care your color of your skin, we don't care your religion, we don't care, you're male or female, we don't care your sexual preference, we don't care your religion, your age. We only care, can you referee,
Mm-hmm.
and are you a good person? And if you are, you can be part of the referee team. And then once you've made the referee team, if you meet the standards of every level, a certain level, we will give you, you will have earned, is probably a better, the opportunity to officiate, right, at the men's level or whatever level it is, World Cup level, men or women. And one of the proudest things I think, and FIFA will tell you this, that I think CONCACAF is the leader in diversity in terms of refereeing in the world. I mean, in December in the Arab Cup, in in um, in the Middle East of all
Yeah.
places, we had a female official, right? I don't know if you know, work
Yeah.
as Karen Diaz from Mexico, work as an assistant referee in an official men's level A competition in FIFA, and they loved her.
Oh
She
wow.
performed. It wasn't the fact that she was male or female; it was that she was a world class official, right? And at the Gold Cup, we were the leader with um, uh, Gisette Kerr from Jamaica,
Yes.
and Catherine Nesbitt from the United States working the Gold Cup as assistant referees,
Mm-hmm.
and again games in CONCACAF League and the Caribbean championships and those type of things with females doing finals and high level games and all those competitions, and I think this is where we need for football to succeed in the long term. This is the focal point that we around the world we have to focus on.
Mm. Now, when you look at the administration side of what you were able to accomplish, what would you say is the most satisfying thing you in the position, whether it be the first time or the second time, you were able to kind of push over the line as something that you had been working on for some time?
I think there's a couple. I think number one is this diversity issue that we just discussed. I think number two is the establishment of a new core, a new hungry, passionate group of officials who can perform, as I said, at any level on any game in FIFA. And I would say, the third thing is to provide a positive and world class training and development environment for for every official, where you're female, male, referee, assistant referee, assessor,
Hmm.
instructor, within in CONCACAF, and as you know too, we implemented VAR,
Yeah.
right, very quick, and in the most challenging region in FIFA, right? Because basically we only have the US and Mexico using VAR, and yet we have been able to utilize it in Nations League Final Four, Champions League, Gold Cup, and these extremely important competitions. And I think that my staff, Mark Cahan and Lance Van Heitzma, and all the instructors that we have really dug down hard and put a lot of great time and effort into ensuring that VAR will work in a region with a lot of challenges. So
Yeah.
we did it.
I'm glad you brought up the VAR. Is it working to where when you would have first heard about VAR? What were your initial thoughts? And then when they rolled it out, was it what you thought it would be? And where do you see it now that you're on the outside kind of looking in? Now you have a different perspective of it.
Yeah. I mean, I think the perspective was initially, I thought, oh my goodness. I love the human aspect of football, right?
Yes.
This is part of the passion. This is, forget about referees, but the spectator arguing, the supporter of one team arguing against another, penalty or no penalty, red card or no red card.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my goodness, this is going to take away that passion and the human aspect of football. And then as I saw the implementation, FIFA, right, first applying this, and then it used in the World Cup, firsthand in the World Cup, I really changed my attitude, Earl, because I saw that important decisions, the referees were given a second chance, right?
Yes.
For the good of football, for the
Yeah.
good of the game, right? To get the decision right. And I always reflect, there was, I'll tell a quick but a poignant story that many years ago, I refereed 3 CONCACAF Champions League finals. On the third final, a goal was scored. And I didn't feel comfortable about the goal. I thought, I think this player's offside. So we didn't have communication systems then. We had beeper flags, but we still were using smoke signals back then, right? So I kind of moved to my AR and I look at him and he gives me the signal goal and we give goal. And we had a lot of trouble with that. I mean, all hell broke loose on the field of play after this decision. But then I returned home. I finally saw a replay, and it was offside. And this team won the game. And because of this game, they qualified for the FIFA Club World Cup.
Okay.
And they got, at the time, something like $1 million or whatever the prize money was for qualifying. And I always reflect on that decision, that if I would have had VAR and had another chance for us as a referee team to review that critical decision, maybe the result of the game would have been different, or at least perceived as fair.
Definitely. Well, I'm gonna bring in Mr. Cranston Williams, head of refereeing in Bermuda, someone you've gotten to know rather well. As he always says, I'm constantly in touch with Mr. Hall. Constantly in touch with Mr. Hall.
I mean, I don't like the fact that he already outdressed us. I mean, this is not fair. This is not a fair situation, Cranston. I'm not happy with that, but it's great to see you, and thank you for. As I was telling Earl, there's a lot of proud moments for the BFA, right? In the last couple of years, the investment and your leadership, despite not having a referee background, the fact that you have that passion for refereeing and you've taken it upon yourself to, invest your time and efforts into refereeing. And what have the results been? Look at, right, the FIFA list now, 4 or 5 years ago in Bermuda versus today, and the competitions. I know you use Instagram and in a great way to promote the value and what your officials have done. And you've had some beautiful moments over the last several months, right, that you've been able to celebrate a lot of successes. So congratulations to you, the management team, and the BFA for all that you have done for refereeing and the game of football.
Well, thank you very much, Brian. I must say, I think it was in 2017 when I first met you at the head of referees seminar you hosted in Miami. And I remember, I think that was the year when I found out Tashawn was first getting together and listen. You called me Mr. Triangle. I remember I spoke to you. We were getting lunch, and I said, Brian, I'm having issues. I can't, somehow I don't have any females. And you looked at me. I am now forgetting. You said, well, you are gonna have somebody in the FIFA list next year. So I'm pretty sure you'll find a way to get females. I remember like walking away from me like, what is this guy talking about? I'm telling him I don't have it. How am I gonna do that? But you challenged me. You made me step outside my comfort zone. And now I have a Natasha track. And I have others follow behind her. So on behalf of the Bermuda Football Association and all the referees here, especially Tashawn, Amari, Stephen, Clinton, Natasha, Mateo also, I just want to say thank you. You have been a role model, an inspiration. And, I always use your name, especially when it comes to the people that are aspiring to go on your list. I said, listen, if you think I'm hard, wait till you meet Mr. Brian Hope. I said, I prefer to know that I tell you all for doing whatever here that you get on a player that goes to beat him. And he says, okay, me go next day, you're going home. So, it's been fun. I was rather saddened to see the email that, you're no longer there, but I know I can reach out to you anytime. So I had to come on and just tell you publicly, thank you, thank you, thank you,
Thank
all
you.
of your support. It has been an awesome ride, and I wish you all the best in whatever you do from here. But I am going to publicly now extend the invitation to come to Bermuda, as I have in an email, but I'm doing it publicly now, Earl. So I have invited him to visit our shores.
Yeah,
Well,
sure, sure.
Earl, I'm going to be on the next plane to Bermuda, especially the next time that the weather gets below 40 degrees here in New York City. I'll be knocking on Crinceton's door, hoping to get a room in his house because I'll be there to celebrate and work with the referees. But as I said, Crinceton, I'm more than happy to come. Sometime in the next couple of months when we finalize the date to work with you and your team of referees, instructors, assessors, because I know as I have used the BFA as a role model for all of CONCACAF in terms of if you invest and you make it a priority, you will see results, right? It may take some time, but you will see results. And the most important thing is that you have changed the mentality of those individuals, of the referees, to I think that's what was missing for all those years, right? Most of them thought, it's never going to happen. It's not important. No one really cares. Why do I want to invest my time? And one of the important aspects of being a successful referee is really having that mentor, having the support around you, because refereeing is a difficult task. You fall down so many times, right? And you need someone to extend their arm, right? With that sympathy and empathy, Earl, that we spoke about at the beginning, and to
Yes.
pick you up off the ground and sometimes kick you in the butt, right? To motivate you to the next one, or sometimes just to give you that hug, depending upon the situation. And I think your referees, the results show that you have done that, and that passion for football and passion for refereeing is now ingrained in their daily life. So congratulations.
Mm.
Thank
Well,
you.
I want to thank you very much, Mr. Hall, for helping to inspire our local officials because as Cranston and I have talked over the years, you have been a driving force on him. He's been a driving force on the officials, and just knowing that he has the support and someone that he can call upon to get advice, to get recommendations of having a course of or anything of that nature. I want to thank you very much for being a friend of Bermuda football and the referees as well, because without your guidance, a lot of the 41 nations in the CONCACAF region wouldn't have the officials we have today. And I thank you for that vision because we talked about, you implementing certain things that would have allowed us to then be one of the leading regions in having officials. And hopefully in the next probably 2 or 3 World Cups, we will then have the most officials officiating if we don't have enough, too many teams qualifying or whatever. But
Mark my
yeah,
word.
yeah, we'll be represented.
in 2026, a CONCACAF referee is going to, if we don't have a team in the final, we're going to have a referee in the final.
All right. That's what we're looking forward to. Hopefully it's from one of the countries we know, including Bermuda. How's that?
Exactly. I love that.
All right. Mr. Williams, thank you very much for joining.
Thank you.
Mr. Hall, thank you very much. I do appreciate this chat, and we look forward to seeing you on our shores sometime soon.
Okay. Anytime. Thank you again for asking
Thank
me.
you.
Bye-bye. Ciao.
Good evening.